All right, my friends, welcome back to a brand new episode. This week I'm going to focus on some quick tips and tricks that I use for my freezer. And first, you're going to see me, of course, making some spaghetti squash. And I made some pumpkin chocolate chip cookies. Of course, when you have a kid, you don't always stay focused on what you need to do. So you're going to see a little bit of that today. But I just wanted to kind of go through what I do with things, like especially things that we don't really eat or use. So now we've decided that we want the trike inside or the bike inside, so we'll go back. So when I made this spaghetti squash, I had full intentions of having spaghetti and meatballs for dinner. And guess what? We didn't. I don't even know what we had that night. I can't remember, to be honest. But we just have all this spaghetti squash left over. So it's like, what do you do with that? Like, do you just let it go? Do you just let it go in the trash? No, you need to freeze it. So as I continue to do this and work on this, I had all the leftovers for a lasagna. I had made lasagna in the crock pot this day and fell in love with it. Also, I will try to find that chocolate chip pumpkin recipe because those cookies were incredible. So I took the lasagna, took all the insides out, and I had put it in the container. And then I forgot about it in the back of the fridge. So then I found the rest of my lasagna insides. So I ended up making a lasagna for the freezer. So that's the other thing you need to remember is that if you have extra things in your fridge that you can throw into an entire meal in a freezer pan, let's do it. So here's my spaghetti squash lasagna. It's just the spaghetti squash on the bottom, a lasagna layer, and then cheese. And then it had ricotta and cottage cheese mix. And then I did the same thing. I labeled it spaghetti squash lasagna 350 for 30 to 45 minutes. And I'll take that out for like 30 minutes for 3 days to work. And then the other day I had salsa chicken left over and peppers left over. What do you do with them? Throw them in the freezer. Make sure you label. Grab the two things, put them in plastic bags, and load your freezer. So just think about the easy ways that you can just save time and energy. So the other thing I also did was we had our party this weekend. So here I am just cleaning up. Did I let it go an extra day? Yes. Do I care? No. As you can see, the pregnancy is definitely coming along. I'm 22 weeks now. So things just aren't going as quickly as possible, and that's okay. So let's talk through that freezer stuff. So I want you to find things in your fridge that you can make into entire meals or just sides. So dicing some peppers or making sure that you're using those onions. If you freeze, if you cut all your onions at once and then freeze them, it is a great use of your time and it makes it so much easier when you have to cook a huge meal. The other thing you're going to see me right here is that I have things in meal prep containers. So my son looked at me and wanted food right that second. The hardest part of being a mom sometimes is just coming up with a meal right then, right? So what I had done is I had kept everything separate from the party, which I will have a video about that in the next few weeks. And he wanted just a little bit of an arroz con pollo. So the rice was open, the black beans were open, everything was good, chicken was right there, and then I had the cheese sauce separate. So I just put all that in a bowl and threw it in the microwave for about 30 seconds to a minute for him. And then I decided to make myself a bowl too, because why not? So as much as it's going to suck to hear this, if you're not eating the food you're buying, you're wasting it. And it's so hard. It's so hard to really just say, oh, it's fine. I don't need to worry about it. But really, you're going to be so upset with yourself if you don't just eat the dang food. And I know that's the hardest part of freezer meal prep and hacks. But my biggest freezer meal prep and hack is eat the food you make. And if you don't eat it, then freeze it. You can make full, containers. If you want to make taco meat and make huge rolls of taco meat all at once, it is a great thing to do because then you can just throw it in there at once. It is so easy, it is so helpful, and it is the best way to have a bunch of food. So then I take my black beans, which I had decided just to cook an entire pound for the party, and I rinse them because I don't love the bean juice that they make. And I rinse those, and then I'm going to take these and I'm going to put them in separate small bags. So you're going to see that in a few minutes and a few seconds. But that's the thing is just when you're having a party, make a huge vat of something and then rinse it out, and save it and freeze it. It is the best way to save money is to have things in the freezer that you can throw together to make a soup. My mother-in-law came down with an entire rotisserie chicken, and we clearly weren't going to eat it because we had so much going on. So she deboned the entire rotisserie chicken for me, and I'm freezing the chicken and the actual carcass of the chicken separately. I'm going to take the carcass and probably the chicken later, but first the carcass, I'm going to put that in with a bunch of different vegetables that I have in my freezer, and I'm going to make a chicken broth. And once I do that, I'm going to take that and make a soup that night, or I'm going to freeze my chicken broth and have homemade chicken broth in the freezer. So just think through what you can do with things that you have. All right, so as I said, here is me writing on a bag. Make sure you write on your bags. If you don't, you're gonna go to your freezer and not have a doggone clue what you have. So I just put, about 3 spoonfuls, and you could weigh this out to make sure it like looked like a can or whatever. I just know that black beans are one of those things that we just kind of need sometimes, but we don't use a lot of. We do like of all the beans, it's probably one of our favorite beans. But I do know that we just don't use a lot. So I also want you to know that I flatten things out in the freezer as best I can. I find that they just keep faster and they're easier to thaw when it's time. So I did all 3 bags, small bags, and a big bag of black beans. And now it's ready to go into the freezer. And then we went to US Foods to get the meat for the party, and they had this for $2.69 a pound, I believe. It's 81.19, which isn't always my favorite, but it was so cheap, like it just you could not turn that down. And then they had a nice coupon. It was $15 off 50. So it's just you have to think about what's going to be the best for your family and for what you're doing. So I'm making tacos. 80/20 beef is really good for tacos. And the cool part too is that with a little bit of extra fat, it doesn't dry out as quickly. So this is what I did for the party. And I grabbed my mom. My mom grabbed one and I grabbed one. And so I took hers home too, and I froze it for her. So right now I'm labeling the bags, ground beef, and I'm putting the date on it, just so that if it does get in the small part of or the bottom of my freezer, then I know where it is. And then I have my pan out to make my taco meat. So right now I'm going to cut it in half first. I have found that this is the best way. I used to just freeze it, like cut it and then throw it in a bag and freeze it. But I have found that a friend actually recommended to like do it flat. And I was like, ooh, that's such a great idea. And it thaws so much quicker. And it doesn't take up as much space and you don't lose it in the very bottom of your freezer. So this is where I'm just cutting these in half. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I did just cut it into fourths. It's 10 pounds almost. So that makes about 2.5 pounds each. And that just seems to kind of work for our family. We eat a lot of beef when we eat beef. So like just like I talked about like the making lasagna and then making the spaghetti squash lasagna because I had extra left over. So I like to just have those extras. And if you have a big family, that's what works best. So I just put all these 4 in there. They did great into there. You'll just notice that I'm wearing my glasses. It's early in the morning. I'm trying to prep before the party. We had my in-laws in, which was so nice. So they kept my son very, very, very focused on everything while I got all this done. So it was really nice. So I do come out with 6 bags of this, and then I ended up cooking 5 pounds for the party and only had 1 serving for our family left over. So pretty cool. The other thing for a party, which I will talk about too in the party video, of course, is to um, put the beef first or whatever you have the most of first, because that's what people will eat. So here I am just flattening it out as best I can. It was not easy. It was not something that like I really enjoyed. I do leave it a little bit open, so the air can escape, but I try to close the top the most part so that it doesn't get everywhere. And I just rolled it out as best I could. I meant it to be nice and flat and, ready to go. So once I did all of that, I kind of laid them all out, squeezed out the air, and then threw them in the freezer. I left the 4 out for my mom, and she came and get them, so it was great. Friends, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope you, use these freezer meal prep and hacks. If you need help with freezer meal prep or you need help with your nutrition, I'm here. Make sure you like and subscribe and watch the next video. Thanks, guys. Bye.